Hi, everyone. I know that some of you are still trickling in, but we're going to get started. I'm Kathy Rowe from New Jersey Advocates for Aging Well, and I'm happy to introduce Melanie Burr, a nurse and nurse practitioner from the Positive Approach to Care group. We are bringing her to you today because we've been focusing on caregiving and the needs of caregivers in New Jersey, and we've heard so many wonderful things about the positive approach to care and wanted to share it with you all. For those of you that are not able to attend in person, we're going to send the link out to people. We hope that you share it. We think this is important information, and we know how difficult it is for caregivers to be able to find the free time. So if you have questions, please put them in the Q&A, and we will try to wait to the end for questions. But if something comes up directly related to Melanie's slides, we'll cut in and ask her. So like I said, I will keep trying to figure out that chat, but in the meantime, put in the Q&A, and I'm going to turn this over to Melanie. Go ahead.
Thank you very much, Kathy. I appreciate that. And I am so glad to be in New Jersey. I actually am in North Carolina, and I am delighted to be with you on Zoom. Welcome to I guess this is my office now. I've kind of moved it all over my house as kind of life has changed throughout Zoom time, COVID time. So welcome to my home, and maybe someday I will be able to come and join you in New Jersey. But I've been interested in working with people living with dementia because I learned early in my nursing career that I made a difference with them, and that I had an ability to kind of understand them in a way that not all of my colleagues, that not all of my friends, that not all of my coworkers and other disciplines had. So I think it is really well framed in that idea of positive approach to care. So I'm going to show y'all a picture. I'm going to show you a picture, and I'm going to ask you to look at this picture and tell me, oops, it's not there. I'll have you look at this picture and tell me what you notice. We'll find it. So many things open. I know it's here. So I'm gonna have you look at this picture. And think about what you notice. So Kathy, I'm going to ask you to unmute for a minute and just talk to me. What do you notice about this picture?
Well, I mean, the first thing is the size, which could be a different brain because as a child compared to an adult, but just the color, and it doesn't look healthy. It doesn't, just by looking at it, something doesn't seem lively or healthy.
So you look at it, it just doesn't. So you're talking about the one on the right.
Yeah, the one on the right. It just doesn't look right.
It doesn't look right. So when you look at the one on the left, what do you notice about the one on the left now?
Well, it looks clean. It looks fresher. I mean, it sounds awful, but if I were comparing it to meat, almost, it looks healthier. It looks fresher, clean. It looks alive.
It looks healthier and clean and fresher and alive. And so when you look at this one, it looks darker and it looks smaller, and it kind of looks a little bit shriveled up, right?
Yeah.
So it's changed, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
So when you look at that brain, do you think of it as being more brain failure, or do you think of it more as being brain change?
Brain change.
Brain change. So when you look at those two brains, and the brain on the left side is the brain of someone who died from an accident. The brain on the right side is the brain of somebody who died from dementia. And when you compare them, you see that there are some dramatic changes in there, right?
Mm-hmm.
So Kathy, would you expect the person on the right to be able to do everything the person on the left could do?
No, because it clearly it's like the brain it's not built the same. It's smaller, there's more space. It's just not as dense.
So it's smaller, there's more, the crevices are deeper, it's not as there's not as much depth. It's
Mhm.
not plump and filled out. So you wouldn't expect that person on the right to be able to do the same things as the person on the left.
Correct.
Who do you think would be faster?
I'm assuming the one on the left because there's more in that brain. It's like the gaps are filled in. There seems to be more in it.
So there's more there to work with. So you think that
Yeah.
one would be faster as well. Which one of these two brains do you think would be able to learn new information, take in something new and understand it and do it differently?
Again, on the left, just because there's just more material and more tissue, it looks like there's more there to absorb.
So it seems more solid. It seems like there's more. So which one of these two people would, if these were real people in a real relationship spending time together, which one of these people would have the ability to adapt and to change?
The person on the left with the normal brain.
The person on the left. And so that idea that that person on the left has the ability to adapt and to change and to respond, and that person on the right, we can look at that brain and is it gone?
No, it's there, but it's different.
So it's exactly. It's there,
We did not rehearse that.
it's there, and it's different. So for that person living with dementia, they are who they've always been,
Hmm.
but they're different.
Okay.
And for us, we're the people who have the capacity and the ability to do what?
To change and learn.
To change and to learn. And that's what the positive comes from. The
Mhm.
positive approach to care comes from the idea that we focus on a couple of different things. One thing is we focus on what the preserved abilities are and not just what the losses are. Because if I only focus on the losses, then I don't really have anything to work with, because if something isn't there, I can't use it. But if I can focus on the things that are still there, then I can use that. So if everybody will kind of put their hands up like this, and you can do this even if I can't see you, even if you can't see me, you put your hands up like this and put one up. You've got two sides of your hand. You've got this side of your hand are your skill fingers. Now, Kathy, what do you do with these fingers?
Everything. Pick up, touch things, dress, zip, put on jewelry, everything.
Yeah, you adjust your glasses, you zip things, you put your jewelry on, you write. If you've got you eat,
Right.
your tea. You use these skill fingers. So for people living with dementia, often what happens is this part, they aren't able to use as well this skill. But now do this with me. We've still got what?
Strength,
Strength.
our hands, our tools.
We've still got our strength. And so even when people, or maybe especially when people are losing their skill, we can hold on to their strength. And that's where this positive approach comes from, is the idea that we're not focusing on hold your spoon the right way, hold your spoon the right way, hold your spoon the right way. If what we can do is focus on using that strength. Because the person who can change,
Yeah.
is me as a care partner. That
Mhm.
person who is really in brain change is the person who really can't change.
Mhm.
So I asked you about brain change and I asked you about brain failure. And I use the term brain change most of the time because it keeps up with exactly what you were saying. If that person is different, they're changing. They still are a person. They're changing. And I want to pause just a minute, and I want to talk about the benefits sometimes of thinking about this idea of brain failure as being something that can be meaningful. So, Kathy, have you ever known anybody who was in congestive heart failure?
I don't think so. No,
Well, you can
but
imagine
I know what it is.
someone's heart isn't pumping really well. What kind of
Right.
problem they have?
Breathing, moving.
Breathing and moving and all kinds of things. So if this person is in congestive heart failure that I'm working with, I've got my person with me here. So if my person is in congestive heart failure and they're struggling to breathe, I'm not going to go up to them and go, breathe better. Now,
Right.
yesterday, now why aren't you trying to breathe? Would I do that?
No, no,
No, I wouldn't do that. Why not?
because they can't control it. It's not something they're choosing to do.
Because if they could breathe, they,
It would be breathing, right?
and I'm not going to go up to somebody who's got kidney failure and go kidneys, go kidneys, go. Because if they could
Right.
do that, they would. But all the time, we think about somebody who is in brain failure,
Hmm.
and because they often look good. And
Hmm.
some of you who are family caregivers, I'm going to tell you something right now. Kathy told me about half of the people are family caregivers, about half the people it's caregiving as a job. So about half family care partners, half professional care partners. I can tell you sometimes the person living with dementia looks better than some of the care partners did. And
Yeah.
that's the truth of what I've seen. So I had an experience. I was walking out of a dementia special care unit, memory care, cognitive focus, whatever the language is. And I was walking out, and this lady wanted to get out. And I almost let her out because she looked real good until someone
Oh,
running over and saying, so sometimes it's not about, often, it's not about what people look like, because people living with dementia sometimes look better than their care partners did,
right.
because there's a different kind of change going on in the
Hmm.
care partners and in the person living with dementia. So I'm going to go back to sharing my screen. I'm going to stop this and I'm going to go back to, I just felt kind of led to show y'all that. That wasn't in the slide set that I was planning to, but I'm going to start back over again a little bit, show you a little bit more stuff in order. I'm going to leave this up for just a moment, because if you want to take a picture of this, and Kathy, you might want to, you said you're sending out something for the
Yeah.
people who participate. That's where people can get a copy of the slides, is following that link. This is where you can get copies of these slides that we're going to go through today. So here's the reality check. I am a person who, and I'm gonna ask y'all about this to kind of take a moment and reflect. When you think about New Year's resolutions and you think about your expectations of you as a human being, I am one of those people who I expect myself to be perfect. And so every year when I set my New Year's resolutions, I say I'm going to do this whole list of things. And I have broken my resolutions by lunchtime on New Year's Day, and I don't feel like I have anything to work for. This idea that we do the best we can do and that we can't be perfect care partners is also core to a positive approach, because often people have trouble treating themselves with the same grace that they offer to other people. And so our model really believes that it's time to let go of being perfect. It's time to let go of that there's nothing to learn, and just kind of realize that the best way to learn is to make some mistakes and then not let it go. Make some mistakes and then figure it out. And sometimes we need somebody to help us figure those things out. So we start to think about dementia. There are 4 truths about the changes we associate with neurodegeneration, dementia. There are 4 truths. And the first one is a 2 thing. The first one is that at least 2 parts of the brain are dying. At least 2 parts of the brain are dying. One associated with memory, and if you put your fingers right there and you were to push in, don't do it. It's not good for your brain to push in through the skull. But if you were to push in, that would be where your hippocampus is. So that's impacted. And then something else. And the something else might be language. The something else might be executive function. The something else might be movement. The something else might be vision. The something else might be deep inside with the amygdala, but 2 parts of the brain are dying. The second truth is that it's chronic. There's not anything available right now that can make it fixed, can make it go away. Now, Kathy and I were talking before the rest of y'all joined us that you have to be really careful with what you read, because you Google dementia and you get cure for dementia, or almost as prevention of dementia. And no, just kind of keep going when you see those things, because those things really aren't really where the science is right now. It's a chronic condition. It's progressive, which means if you put your fingers like this, it's going to continue to decline. Now, Alzheimer's disease is going to continue like this. Vascular dementia is a little bit more stepwise. The others might be faster or more, but it's progressive. And dementia is a terminal disease. People die from dementia eventually. And within all of that, we still have some ways to find some positives, that even though things don't work the way they used to because we're losing skill, we are still holding on to strength. Even though things aren't going to go back to the way they used to, we can develop a sense of, how do we live within this new normal? How do I find the ability to make this work for us? Even though it's going to be progressive and continue, the reality is we can have a lot of wonderful times together. Dementia gets a bad rap, and it should in a lot of ways, but there's a lot of stereotypes about dementia that aren't true. There's a lot of people get this and people do that and people are like this. I've had 3 people recently come up to me and tell me stories that gave me a sense of encouragement and hope. I had one lady tell me, she said, my mother-in-law hated me. The woman despised me. She would humiliate me. She would insult me. She would make fun of me. She would taunt me. She was just mean to me. And now that she's got dementia, all of a sudden she likes me. And so sometimes there can be things, the change doesn't have to be bad. Sometimes these changes can bring joy and can be good with support of figuring things out. And that support is really not an option. And I've got to figure out a better way to say this. But it does matter how much you love your person. It does matter how committed you are to your work if you're doing this for a living. It does matter, and it's just not enough. Love is not enough when you've got somebody living with dementia in your life. Love is important, commitment is important, but it's not enough because dementia is too complicated. So if love isn't enough, what do we need to go with it? We need love and what might you add to that, Kathy? We need love and what?
New ideas and new skills.
We need love and we need skills, and we need love and we need new ideas. And that means we've got to be able to stay flexible and creative, right? I was doing a program for a group of care partners, and we were talking about, all the things that they wanted to do and they needed to do, and the things they didn't have and they couldn't have. And what it came down to is this. When we get stressed, we get rigid. When we get stressed, we get rigid. So do this with me, Kathy. Bring your hand down like this. So this is talking about when we're stressed. So we start out being aware that something is going on around us, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we're aware that something's going on around us. And then when things don't go well, it starts to feel a little risky. And then it moves on to the point of being dangerous.
Yeah.
So that's what that part of the brain does, is it goes aware, risky, dangerous. And so when we're care partners, we're aware that stuff is changing, and we tried a couple of things and they don't work. And now it feels really out of control and dangerous. And we've got another side to that. Do this with me. I like to be independent. Do you like to be independent, Kathy?
I'm extremely independent.
Extremely independent. And when somebody starts to try to control you, it starts to feel a little bit what?
Very uncomfortable, frustrating.
So you went from liking to be independent to now you want to be independent.
Yeah.
And if that pressure moves higher, you move from wanting to be independent to what?
I can't even imagine.
To be independent. I
Yeah.
need. And so this idea that if I like something, I want it, I need it, it moves up to this area where it becomes dangerous, and then it just kind of implodes for us. And that can be for the person living with dementia, or that can be for that care partner as well.
Mm.
And part of the brain is not part of the brain that we talk about often enough, because when we talk about dementia, we often talk about memory, or we talk about some other things. But this driving force is something to pay attention to if we want to be able to stay in a part of the brain where we can make things work and make things connect and let go of some of that I'm just surviving, to where we can get to the point where we can have some joy and some peace. We want to let go of just kind of keeping the body going and enjoy some joy, and be in a situation where this part of the brain can really work and do their best. And so sometimes what happens is we're challenged to try to make a connection with somebody who isn't feeling at their very best. So I'm going to stop sharing for just a minute, and I'm going to have us think about that. So I want you to think back to a time when you were in a situation where you weren't feeling very settled? And I'm gonna ask everybody on the call, not just Kathy, to think about that, but I want everybody on the call to think about a time when you weren't feeling very settled, and to think about what were some of the things that might give you support, that might help you through that. And we're actually going to use the Q&A for that now.
Yeah, put it in the Q&A. We will be able to see it.
Okay, what are some of the things that either verbally or visually or physically you found to support you in times when you were in a good bit of distress? What are some of those things?
I know for me, it's going for a walk. It's just getting out, like physically getting out of the room and walking, and eventually the fresh air, the sunshine, whatever kicks in, and my mind starts to clear. Can't really walk and think at the same time, so it clears my mind.
So for Kathy, it's getting outside, and whether it's the fresh air or whether it's the sunshine or whether it's the movement or whether it's the combination, that's what works for her. I'm wondering if somebody else has some things that can drop into that Q&A, or maybe that's not so much. So some of the things that work for me, I love music. And so that idea of connecting through music is something that really helps me. So I'm going to go back to the PowerPoint. I'm going to look at this and think about, so here's some things that can be really helpful. So look at these. I'm going to ask you to try just a couple of these with me, Kathy. So repeating a few of their words with a question, using just a few words, going slow. And I'm going to try some of this with you. So Kathy, can you be pretty mad and say, I am, this has been, and I just can't believe, can you do that for me?
Oh, yeah, I do that often. I don't have to try hard. So, I mean, for me recently, it was my mother, who now has Alzheimer's, and was so mad at her not being able to understand what I was saying and explaining it over and over. And, it was so frustrating and getting so mad. I had to take a real step back.
So you got really frustrated because you were doing your best
Mm-hmm.
and it wasn't working.
Right.
And it was frustrating because the things that used to work
Don't work anymore.
don't work anymore. So that was an example of some of those skills, right? Because
Yeah.
I repeated some of your phrases back. I gave you a chance to kind of express yourself. So with somebody living with dementia, when they're at a level where they're having some distress, then they might get really they oh, it's just. And so I, as the person working with them, might go just to make that relationship, to build that connection. So let's go back to the PowerPoint. We're going to look at a couple of other things that are kind of helpful. But we're going to start with this idea of getting connected first. So I am going to have you look at these steps because this is a very standardized approach to how to approach someone. I'm actually going to show you some video of that. So hold on a minute. I'm going to bring up some video of me demonstrating this this particular skill. So I'm going to take you with me.
And while you do that, I'm going to say Julie put in that her way of escaping is reading a book, which is always a good option.
Oh, I love that. Reading is I actually am in a book club, and we don't read the same book. We just read anything we want to and come together and talk about it. And that is the best kind of book club ever. So I'm going to show you this positive physical approach using connect, a way of connecting with people. So I'm going to show you this. So let's see. I actually restarted it. Okay, so I'm going to show you. So let's see. Nice job. Hey,
Well, hey.
love you.
Hey.
It's Melanie.
Hi, Melanie.
Good.
It's Matthew.
It is Matthew.
Yeah.
I like your hat.
My hat. Oh, yeah.
It's nice. Let's go look.
Go look?
Yeah,
All right.
let's go. Nice job. So I'm going to pause it and I'm going to stop sharing. And I'm going to put back up that PowerPoint. And we'll look at what the pieces are and we'll see how I did. So did I stop around 6 feet? I think so. And greeted with an open hand and smiled. I called his name and I put my hand in that handshake position and moved in slowly. And then I shook hands with him. And then I shifted into that hand under hand. And I moved along to the side of him. And I sat down, but didn't lean in. And I made a connection. So how do you think that went, Kathy?
It seemed pretty smoothly, and it seemed like you gave the person a chance to register that you were there, recognize you. It gave them a minute to process that you were approaching them.
So it gave them a minute to kind of process it. I was approaching. So I'm going to ask everybody to do this. I'm going to ask everybody to put five hands on one side, 5 fingers on one side and 5 fingers on the other, and just kind of see how that feels. Then I'm going to ask you to put those 2 hands together. Does that feel pretty comfortable, Kathy?
Yep.
Feels pretty comfortable. Now separate them back. Now choose one hand and leave up 5 fingers. And then choose the other hand and only leave up 3. And I hope people who are watching are doing this too. So that other hand has 3. Now put them together and see how that goes.
I can't even line up my fingers without looking.
They don't match. You can't line them up. Does that feel really comfortable or does it feel kind of clunky?
It's clunky.
It's kind of clunky and kind of awkward. So now take 3 fingers and take 3 fingers. And now connect them. And how does that feel, Kathy?
It's very difficult. It's clunky.
How does that feel compared to that one?
They're just not even connecting.
The 5 doesn't connect. Is the 3 and 3 better than the 5 and 3?
Yes.
So you still don't love it.
Right.
And it's hard because it's unusual.
Mm-hmm.
But it's better than the not matching.
Right. It's balanced.
It's better than balanced. So Kathy, I'm going to ask, you're working harder tonight than you planned. So I'm going to ask you to walk in and do your normal kind of, hi, it's Kathy, I work for da-da-da-da-da, your normal kind of introduction, okay?
Okay. Hi, I'm Kathy Rowe from New Jersey Advocates for Aging Well. Nice to meet you.
What? Okay,
That was pretty quick, wasn't it?
What you notice about Kathy? So Kathy, you say that really often, don't you?
Yep.
Yeah, you said that really often. So you were definitely at a what?
Out of 5. Yep.
You were definitely at a 5. Was I at a 5, Kathy?
No.
I was not at a 5. What was I at?
Yeah, 2 or 3. You didn't even know, like, if we were in person, you wouldn't have seen that I was coming towards you.
I might not even notice. If you've been beside me or somewhere else, I might not even know. So I'm gonna ask you to try it again, Kathy. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna ask you to give me a knock knock.
Okay.
And wait till I notice you, okay?
Knock, knock. Hi, Melanie.
Hey, Hey, hey,
Hi, Melanie. It's me. It's Kathy.
it's well, hey,
I'm
Kathy.
Kathy.
Hey, Kathy.
Nice to meet you, Melanie. And then
Yeah, it's good to meet you. Now, how did that feel?
it was more relaxed. Felt a little more Southern, talking slower than we do up here in New Jersey.
I was wondering if you were going to bring that up.
Yeah, we are fast up here. Yeah, but also I was more relaxed. I felt more relaxed doing that.
So you felt more relaxed, and so
Mhm.
the hi, I'm Kathy. Da, 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 it's just kind of that whole long spiel. It's just kind of a routine.
Mm-hmm.
When you did it the second way and you kind of connected with me, it felt more comfortable for you as well.
Definitely.
Because when you realized I didn't get it, at that point, you didn't know if you should say the whole thing again. You didn't know if I got part of it, not part of it. Yeah.
Right.
So let's try it again. Give me a knock knock.
Knock, knock.
Well, hey, you're the one, aren't ya?
Yeah, it's me. It's Kathy.
Well, Kathy, of course it is. Well, come on in the house. Now, how is that different?
Well, it was easier because your reaction was easier.
Mhm.
And it was just more relaxing and comfortable for me.
So you felt more comfortable, and it kind of feels like it's kind of a little bit more live. So that's where this matching comes in, is this idea of matching pace and matching the number of words and matching our interactions and our relationships to make it really work. Now, who's got to do that? Can you expect me to match you if I'm the person living with dementia?
No, no. The
So,
onus is on me.
so what about if I've got a doctor's appointment?
Hmm.
I've got a doctor's appointment. What are you automatically thinking is going to be a challenge? It's going to be a challenge. It's going to be a challenge because you have got to get, it's an appointment, right? And
Mhm.
it's an appointment. And if you don't get there on time, there will be consequences.
Yeah.
You don't have to pay for an appointment. You might have to wait even longer than you're already going to wait. And so, Kathy, if you come in a hurry to try to get me to the doctor's
Mhm.
appointment, what do you think is likely to happen?
This is what happens in my life now. It's going to be difficult. So we when I now take my mother to a doctor, I get there early and we sit down and we talk and take our time getting out the door, which has made a world of difference.
So we have, and so when you adjust to her time
Yeah.
and make a connection before you, so here a couple of things is put your hand up like this, Kathy. So when your hand is up like this is your agenda. These are the things you've
Mhm.
got to do. So mom's got to have clothes on. We've got to have our purse. We've got to have
Right.
our medicine. All of this stuff. If you go in with your agenda like this,
Mhm.
what's going to happen?
It's going to meet resistance or cause stress.
It's not, it's going to meet resistance or it's going to cause stress, because what you basically are doing is taking your agenda
Mm.
and doing what?
Forcing it on them.
Forcing in on the person. And when we as human beings feel rushed, when we as human beings feel pushed, when we as human beings feel pressured, not people living with dementia, but just we as human beings, our reaction is to do one of those 5 things: fight,
Mhm.
fright, flight, hide, or seek.
Mhm.
When we feel pressured, though, not because we're trying to be, and people tend to interpret that as she's being difficult or she's being
Right.
distant or he's being combative or she's being lazy, and all of this language, and all of this language has values with it that really aren't accurate and certainly aren't kind. And so if we frame that as, Melanie's not getting her needs met, or
Mhm.
I've got to figure out how to make a better connection, then we have a chance to find a way of being together in a way that makes sense, in a way that works.
Mhm.
And we've got a saying in Eastern North Carolina. I'm in Raleigh, which is kind of Eastern. My family is actually from a little more Eastern of Raleigh. We've got a saying, and it's the hurrieder you go, the hinder you get. And y'all can all write that down and quote. The hurrieder you go, the hinder you get. What do you think that means, Kathy?
The more you try to rush, the more counterproductive it is.
The more you try to rush, the slower you're going to get there. The hurrieder you go, the hinder you're going to get. So that's really true with human beings. Some of you have small children, some of you have spouses, some of you have coworkers. And so this is not just talking about people living with dementia. This is talking about human beings in general have this kind of relationship with being pushed. So we've got this positive approach that's a way of making the connection. We've got a way of connecting with hands for comfort or for doing skills or doing work together. And if you notice these hands, it's kind of in a an arm wrestling handshake, but with the person who's being supported with their hand on the top. And it makes a hand sandwich if you put your other hand on the top, and it feels connected and it feels protected and it feels comforting. And we can use it for skills and for helping with hands as well. Some more ways of doing that. So we've talked about this idea of connecting. You've got a list of several here. Kathy, without even ever having seen this before, used one of them. Hi, Melanie, it's Kathy. You know, is a nice way of doing it. Now, here's my favorite one. Kathy, I love your glasses.
Why, thank you.
Now, do you like me better or not as well, Kathy?
Probably better.
A little bit better. I'm from North Carolina, and you're from?
New Jersey.
From New Jersey. So is it nice and warm there, or is it a little on the cold side?
Little on the cold side.
Oh, it's a little on the cold side. So you know what? Since it's a little on the cold side, what about if we go get something to drink? I mean, get something warm to drink.
Sounds good.
So that's that way of making that connection. If you notice back to the video, we did a visual and a verbal and a touch cue. So I started by far away where my person could see me, and then offered this visual cue before I started talking, and definitely before I started touching. You've got some examples of visual cues and verbal cues and touch cues. You've got some examples of some ways to kind of get the person up and get them started. Now, you'll notice something on here. If I say to you, if you're my person living with dementia, Kathy, and I say, do you want to get up? What are you very likely to say? If I ask you, do you want to, what are you likely to say? Do you
yes
want
or no?
Yes or no? And often it's going to be what?
No. No.
Because no is not really a choice. A lot of times for people living with dementia, no is not really a choice. No is really a reflex. So when we start to think about different parts of the brain that are changing, that are working, that aren't working, if you think about these parts of the brain right here, where your temporal lobes, where your language is, people hold on to the rhythm of language, and they hold on to the pace of language, and they hold on to turn taking and some things like that, but they often lose the vocabulary and some of the things. So what it starts to sound like is, Kathy, I think I'm having them out. Kathy, I think I'm having them out.
I can't understand you.
And you can't understand me. And if you don't understand me, what are you likely to say?
No.
No, unless I'm doing this.
Right.
Now, if
Then it sounds good. It's more
If-
inviting. Yes.
I'm doing this, so I'm doing this, I'm going in it, and then I reach out and I take your glasses. What might happen at that point?
I get disoriented.
You might get startled and you might get scared and you might get alarmed because I went in using language and then touch, and you didn't know what I was talking about.
Right.
Instead, if I had gone, Kathy,
That gives me the cue of what you're going to do.
it gives you the cue of what I'm going to do. So that order is really important. That visual, verbal, tactile cueing is really important. And that idea of not asking those yes or no questions, instead giving those visual cues, instead of saying, hey, Kathy, this or this. Now, what's my goal?
To have me choose one of them and finish the task.
Because I want you to put on some lotion. Do I care which lotion you put on?
Probably doesn't matter.
I don't care at all which lotion you put on. What I care about is that you get some lotion on your skin. So that's how we kind of use those positive action starters. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you one more video clip. And this is a video clip of two people who are very important to me. So one of them is Teepa Snow, who is the founder of Positive Approach to Care. And we've been friends for decades. We've been friends for years and years and years. I'm a nurse. She's an occupational therapist. We've worked together forever. And the other person in this video who is really important to me is my son. So he was 18 when this video was done. And it's gonna, I think, pull together some of the approaches that we've been talking about, some of the positive approach to care approaches. So I'm going to start playing. Kathy, if you'll give me a thumbs up, if you.
Hey, Teepa.
Hey. So notice what he did right there. What did he do? He stopped and he's about 2 arms lengths away, and he put his hand up and he said, hey, Teepa. And she responded. So we're off to a pretty good start so far.
Hey, baby.
Hey.
Yeah. Me here.
Teepa, here.
And his goal, his agenda is to get Teepa to drink something. And Teepa's agenda is what?
Looks like a jar of coins.
Working with that, whatever it is she's working with. Now, what are the chances of her just letting him give her something to drink with both of her hands busy? That's
Nothing.
Not very likely. So he checks out the environment. One of the things he can adapt to, he can adapt himself. He can adapt the environment. So he adapts himself. He adapts the environment. He brings up a tool to kind of give him a better chance of getting his agenda met.
Yeah. Oh.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Got a place for him right.
And so he's got something there for her to see. She automatically puts her stuff on the table. Yay, we're doing pretty well.
There.
There.
Yeah.
Yeah. See
Look at
that?
that.
You do that?
Now, he didn't do it exactly like I did it. You know, starting and putting his hand in and coming in. And maybe that would have been helpful. But he still did some good things. Because even though he didn't get all into this and he didn't get that pure connection, he's not standing up over her. He's sitting down with her. So if you just look at this and you knew nothing about what had happened before, what was going to happen after, you just look at this moment in time. These look like two people who are glad to be together, right?
Mhm.
And she still looks like she's, while she's still more interested in the poker chips and the bottle. She's okay with him being there. And let's see, she is a person who is a grown-up. He is trying really hard to be a grown-up, but maybe hasn't quite made it yet. So Teepa's got a job she can do.
I see that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that goes here,
Yeah, the blue one.
and then that one, that
On
goes.
the other green one. Yeah.
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 Okay. Has Matthew made progress towards getting his agenda? A little bit. You know, she likes him at least. And the fact that she sort of likes him has gotten part of his agenda, but he still hasn't gotten her to drink anything. Let's see what's going to happen next.
Yeah.
Teepa,
Yeah.
something to drink?
Oh, look at that. What kind of cue is that, Kathy?
Yeah, it's a visual cue
So he
for what he wants her to do, to drink.
gave her that visual cue, because what are you noticing about her language?
Her hands are occupied with something else. She's still distracted with the other thing.
So her hands are very busy with that. And the language that she's using is she's saying, I'm going to take this blue poker chip and I'm going to put it on the blue poker chip and the green one and put, is she doing that much language? Is she going, well, it got it. And it's that one and there.
Yeah, the second way you described it.
Yeah. So if he does a lot of talking, we're going to be back to that not connecting, that misconnecting there. Let's see what happens next.
What? Yeah. Okay. Oh, hey.
Hey.
And now she's a little confused because they've already been together and now he's saying hey and shaking hands, but it works because he gets into that beautiful hand under hand that he is now going to use to try to get her to drink.
This here, see it?
Yeah, see.
Yeah.
They're
These-
cool, aren't they?
Oh, those go.
Those go-
there
Those go there.
because that's 1,
Mm-hmm.
2,
2,
3,
3,
and 4.
4.
See that?
See,
And this
That
this
goes-
is
that
there.
goes there.
Yeah.
Teepa,
Mm-hmm.
let's get something to drink.
You gonna get it?
Drink. Got it right here.
Oh,
Yeah,
oh, that's a drink.
that's a drink.
I got it.
You got it?
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
that.
Okay. And Teepa has something in common with you, Kathy, in that once she figures out what he wants,
She wants to do it herself.
she doesn't need him anymore. She wants to do it herself. And so she gets rid of him in a pretty direct way. But it's just to get him to go on because he wanted to help and she didn't need that help. So now she's got the cup and let's see if we get his agenda met.
Thank you.
You got it.
That's okay.
That's okay.
So now this, you can put that in there.
So, so what just, Kathy, what just happened to your face?
There's humor in that. They both got what they wanted.
Okay, so she got some water. He got his agenda. So at that moment, Kathy, your amygdala went from aware to risky. And when she poured that water in there, you went to what? That's not right.
Yeah.
That's not right. But then put your hand right here. This part of your logical and reasonable brain said, okay, it's not right, but you shove this back down because is it dangerous for her?
No.
It really, it's poker chips, it's water, it's a plastic container. And Matthew went through that same process of we can look at it when he first saw what she was going to do. You can see it in his face. You see it in his hand, his reflex.
You can put that in.
And he went to reach for it. And he went, oh, that's not a good idea. And he did a pullback.
Yeah.
This part of your brain pulling back, and let's see what happens.
There.
You can do that.
You see there?
Yeah, look at that.
And then you can put that there.
Yeah,
See it?
I see it.
And now you've got a
Yeah.
martini.
Yeah.
There you go.
And so that's what this positive approach is about. It's about finding a way to connect, finding a way to get agendas met, finding a way to make it work for the person who's living with dementia, working for the care partners, and keeping in mind that we all are in brain change. And the reality is we have a lot more in common with people living with dementia than we have different from them. So I want to thank you for inviting me, Kathy.
Well, thank you very much. And I know that this was just the start of the conversation and learning about these techniques and this approach. So we're going to send out your information for anybody who wants to pursue it further and learn more. I know a lot of what I saw, and I told you my mother now has Alzheimer's. I can see this. I can see this, and finding the humor in things when you have a better approach. And like you said, looking at what is there instead of what's been lost. So it really makes me feel very differently. And I feel much more relaxed and positive for my next encounter with my mother.
And to do that, you've got to take care of yourself. And
Yes.
I know we're out of time, but I mentioned a few minutes ago, to the goal of being creative and the goal of being flexible can only happen. You can only reach that when you take care of yourself.
Yeah.
So when you're aging well as supporting the person living with dementia and their age.
Yeah. Thank you. That's very important. So I think you did such a great job. There weren't questions. I thank you. I thank all of you for joining us, and thank you, Melanie, for sharing your knowledge with us today.
Bye.